If you're looking for a cheap and reliable way to win some games on the Pokemon TCG Live Ladder, then Oinkologne EX might just be the deck for you. Oinkologne EX is a 260 HP colorless Stage 1 EX Pokemon with two pretty serviceable attacks. Its first attack, Maddening Scent, for 1 energy, deals 10 damage, plus 30 more for every benched Pokemon your opponent has in play. That means with a full bench, you'll be dealing 160 damage, and that will half hit even the most bulky Pokemon in standard format. We've also got Heavy Stomp for 3 colorless energy. This one deals a little bit extra damage and 210, but it does have the downside of having to flip a coin, and if tails, you don't get to attack again with this Oinkologne next turn. We're going to be focusing on the Maddening Scent attack in this deck, but instead of dealing lots of damage, we're going to be trying to tank it up. Oinkologne EX has a very high base HP, but we can add to that by playing cards like Full Face Guard. Full Face Guard is a Pokemon tool card that we can attach to our Oinkologne EX, and when it's attached to a Pokemon, it reduces the amount of damage that Pokemon receives by 20 damage. This means that our Oinkologne EX effectively has 280 HP, which is very, very bulky and can sometimes be the difference between being knocked out and staying alive. We also have 4 copies of V-Guard energy in this deck. It does a similar thing to Full Face Guard, reducing the amount of damage that our Oinkologne EX will take by 30 damage from Pokemon V. That means in a matchup against Pokemon V, V-Star, or V-Max, our Oinkologne EX can effectively have 310 HP, which is a lot of damage for lots of decks to deal, and can sometimes save our Oinkologne's bacon. Since we are unlikely to get knocked out, we also play cards to mitigate that damage. That's why we also play cards like Sharon's Care, which allows us to pick up 1 colorless Pokemon with damage cards on it and put those cards back into our hand. It means that if we've got multiple Oinkolognes set up, we can potentially give ourselves a couple of extra attacks with an Oinkologne that really should have been knocked out. We also play 2 copies of Cheryl in this list. Cheryl obviously heals damage from all evolved Pokemon in play on your side of the field, but you need to discard those energies from those Pokemon. That would normally be a massive downside, but considering the fact that Oinkologne only attacks for 1 energy, it's not the end of the world, and again, can keep our Oinkolognes in play for just that little bit longer. Sometimes though, we will need to attack with some other attackers. This list plays 2 copies of Cramorant and 1 copy of Radiant Charizard. The Cramorant can be powered up using the Colress experiment that are in our deck. The Radiant Charizard can come in at the end of the game to take a big one-shot on a 2-prize or 3-prize Pokemon and finish the game off cleanly. Overall, this deck is super, super strong. I really, really enjoy it. Hopefully you like it as well. It's obviously on the screen if you want to play it, and it's down in the description below if you want to copy it into Pokemon TCG Live. It'll cost you approximately 9,000 credits, assuming that you've got none of the cards on the screen, but to be brutally honest, most of the cards are available to you for free, so you'll probably be able to pick this one up relatively cheaply. Let's jump across now to the Pokemon TCG Live Ladder and see if we can't win a game with Oinkologne EX. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can't win ourselves a game or two. Maybe let's just try it for one with Oinkologne EX. We've got a Nest Ball here, which means that we can grab ourselves a copy of Lechonk. We've got Full Face Guard, which is good. We can attach to the active, retreat and get our Lechonk into the active, which I'm a big fan of. But most importantly, we're playing against Lugia, and we've managed to find ourselves a couple of copies of Path to the Peak. This is going to be very, very critical for us to slow our opponent down. Now, we were talking in the deck profile section of the video about the fact that Lechonk is a very defensive deck, and adding on to all the HP that we can heal, we also play the powerful combo of Judge and Path, which means that decks that rely on V or Rulebox Pokemon and using their abilities like Lugia V-Star can potentially be brought to their heels because of that. So we'll see whether or not our opponent is able to set themselves up with a solid board state, but to be honest, as long as our Path to the Peak sticks, we should be fine. Our opponent grabbing a Pumpkaboo here off of an Ultra Ball, so maybe they throw that down now. If they do, then that's great. We can replace the Path and they've got one less way of removing it, but if not, it's in their hand. They've wasted their Ultra Ball, which I'm a massive fan of. So let's play down the Bibarel. We've got the Ultra Ball here. We could choose to just Ultra Ball away the Path and the basic energy here, and this will grab us our lovely Oinkologne. There it is. Okay, let's grab it out here. But the issue with this play is that it relies on us drawing into an energy. So let's judge. We'll see if we can't find one, and we do. That's very good. We can attach that V-Guard energy to the active Oinkologne. And then Industrious Incisors. I'd love to see another basic. We've whiffed it, unfortunately. And now you get to see the real power of Oinkologne EX, dealing 10 damage because our opponent has no Pokemon on the bench. A little bit grim. But we've also got 310 HP, which means that our opponent's Lugia V-Star cannot ever knock us out if they do get all the cards that they need to get their V-Star in play. So I am relatively confident here. The awkward part is our hand is kind of clogged up, to be brutally honest. I would much rather see another copy of Lechonk. That would be great if we could. But you know what? Right now, I'm going to accept the board where we currently are. Oh my goodness, a Stonjourner. That's not good news. We don't want to see that. We really would rather not. It's not the ideal card. But in saying that, we've been judged and we've got a solid hand here. And they've passed, so no way to get out of the path. That is what I like to hear. Alright, Colress time. Let's see what we can get. We've got an Ultra Ball here. We've got a full face guard. We've got a double turbo energy as well, I like. I'm feeling like maybe even the Escape Rope could have been a good card there if we had another way to attack on the bench. With this Ultra Ball, we can grab ourselves another Lechonk. The question is, though, what do we want to discard? And do we want to heavy stomp this turn? That's the next question. Or are we happy to just Maddening Scent one more time? I think we're going to get rid of the Sharon's Care and... I think Sharon's Care and Judge is probably the best way to go with this Ultra Ball. We can use the Ultra Ball, get ourselves another copy of Lechonk, and we do have the Skwovet there as well. If we want to go and grab that, we can. I'll play down the Lechonk, I'll attach that full face guard, and then I can put the double turbo energy on the benched Lechonk and Industrious Incisors. This is a pretty solid place to be brutally honest, and that Skwovet on the bench I like as well. We're going to Maddening Scent here for 40 damage. Again, not a huge amount, but it means that next turn we might be able to sneak a one-hit knock. Well, not a one-hit knock, it'd be a three-shot knockout, but we might be able to steal a knockout on this Lugia V-Star next turn. It, of course, depends on a variety of factors. The path coming down is definitely not ideal. Path being removed, sorry. Now our opponent gets to attack, and they're going to be attacking with the Stonjourner on the bench, I think. And that is quite frightening. It's actually very frightening, because not only if they attack with the Stonjourner, not only will they likely knock out this Oinkologne, but we'll also struggle to KO it ourselves. We might need to find another energy and attach to the benched Lechonk and Heavy Stomp if we are in that position. We'll see how we go. Our opponent using that Primal Turbo ability to search out 2 special energy from their deck and attach them to their Pokemon in any way that they like. And that's obviously very, very strong for this Lugia deck. They're going to be able to power up Giga Hammer from this Stonjourner very quickly. And it looks like they've gone for 2 single strike energies and a gift energy. Not ideal for us, but every time we take a knockout, that's a good thing, right? They're going to Giga Hammer here. They're going to do 120 damage, 140, 160, minus the 20 after the weakness. I think they're going to be fine to take this knockout. Here's the Giga Hammer, 300 damage. And if it was a V, we would have survived. But alas, it was not to be. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. We've got a solid board here. It's not ideal, but it is workable. We've got full face guard, we've got Ultra Ball, we've got Colress, we've got Bibarel, we've got Skwovet. We've got lots of things to do. I think we just Colress. We're going to grab ourselves Cheryl. I'm also going to grab 2 copies of Nest Ball here, I think. We'll grab all of those. It gives us lots of cards to work with. More importantly, it gives us lots of Lechonk, which I am about. We're going to be able to get a ton of those into play. And now we are looking okay to start dealing some serious damage. We can full face guard on the bench. I'm thinking we're going to attach the double turbo to the active. Possibly. No, I think maybe not. Let's just draw. We'll see if we can get a single energy. And we can. We got the V-Guard energy. So we did the right thing there. And now we can Heavy Stomp. We'll take the knockout on the Stonjourner. Again, this Oinkologne cannot be knocked out by Lugia. Right, and we flipped heads, which means we can attack again next turn, which is good. So we can't be attacked by Lugia, but if they do get another Stonjourner into play, we'll be in a little bit of trouble. Boss's Orders into the hand. That's a good card to have access to. You never know, we might be able to knock out some of their Archeops on the bench. 8 cards in hand for them is quite a lot. Here comes an Ultra Ball. We'll see what they go for. See whether or not they've got a Pokemon that can take a knockout. Archeops and Lumineon going into the discard pile. Now, if they do take a knockout, we're in a little bit of strife. We've got Ultra Ball, though, so we can attack again next turn, but it's going to be very, very difficult. If they don't take a knockout, then we've got Cheryl that can potentially heal off any damage, but another Stonjourner is very, very frightening. And a double turbo from hand. Okay, this is grim. This is grim. I've just realized as well, I've just looked at my OBS. My camera, my face is way too big. My face is way too big. So I'm just going to make myself just that smidgen small. I think what happened was I recorded the intro, the deck profile bit, and then forgot to change the camera again. So my head was just very big for a very long time, so I appreciate you sticking past that. By the way, if you've seen that and you've been like, Mitch, you're an idiot. It's too big. Your head's too big. Mitch, your head's too big. Anyway, Primal Turbo. Let's see whether or not we've got enough energy in the deck to attack with this Stonjourner. The critical thing to remember is if they attack for less than... If they attack for less than 140 damage, they are going to whiff the knockout. It doesn't look like our opponent has an opportunity to take a KO here. So maybe we can activate that Cheryl and potentially get away with an extra attack with our Oinkologne. Or we might even choose to just boss's orders out the Stonjourner and keep our Oinkologne in the active as a potential threat down the line. We'll see what we come up with here. Because I don't think we can ever take a knockout on this Lugia V-Star in the active. At least not yet. We might be able to later in the game if we use Charizard. Radiant Charizard could take that knockout. But our Oinkologne can't just now. So we'll see what happens. Our opponent having a think. Radiant Tsarina is a little bit of a fly in our ointment, but it does mean that we're dealing just that little bit more damage with Maddening Scent. We're dealing 130 damage now. 150 damage on our Oinkologne after that Tempest Dive. You can see how much we reduce that damage by. We're going to boss. I'm just going to get rid of this Stonjourner because I'm genuinely afraid that it's going to create lots of trouble for us later in the game. So let's create a situation where we've got another Oinkologne and we've got another attacker and we don't have a big threat that can take multiple one-shots in a row. That's the critical thing. We want to avoid those big one-hit knockouts. Path to the Peak is okay here. I don't mind it. We don't necessarily need it. The thing that it does do is it creates a situation where our opponent might choose to bench more Pokemon, which I am a big fan of. And there's the knockout. A Tails, we won't be attacking with this Oinkologne next turn, but to be brutally honest, it's getting knocked out, so we shouldn't be too worried about that. Alright. So, now the question becomes, are we going to be able to take 4 prizes before our opponent does? Our opponent's going to take 2 on this Oinkologne this turn. It's almost guaranteed. Otherwise, our board state's kind of awkward. We've got a Mesagosa coming down to replace that path so that they can use their Radiant Tsarina. I'm a little concerned about this, but to be honest, we might be able to steal a March and get the win. It of course does depend on whether or not we have access to Radiant Charizard and a Fire Energy. If we have those cards, then we're in a good enough spot that we could win the game. We could. Although with the Radiant Tsarina healing that damage, we now can't attack with the Charizard, so that's definitely a bit of a concern. It's a bit of an issue. Just a smidge of an issue. Tyranitar as well. Alright, we're getting judged. Okay, so let's see what we find with our hand here. Escape Rope's okay. We can work with Escape Rope. And the Cramorant's pretty good too. I'm just not convinced that we've got enough to get us over the line here. I mean, it's okay because the deck's worked. You can see how it's working. But I think we might find ourselves in a really awkward position in this game, depending, of course, on what happens in the next couple of turns. I don't like the fact that we don't have any extra attackers. So, we'll see how we go. Our opponent's going to take 2 prize cards here. And then we have an opportunity. We'll see what we can do. I'd really love to reduce our opponent's hand size. If we could rock sand them or something like that, I'd love that. But we really do need to find a healing supporter in the next couple of turns. A Judge is okay. I think we might play that. We'll judge our opponent. They're going to have 4 cards here. We won't take a knockout. And we've also found a Sharon's Care, which is pretty good, because next turn we could theoretically use that to try and attack with our benched Oinkologne. A benched Lechonk into an Oinkologne would be great. So we've got a Nest Ball here, we've got Radiant Charizard in the deck. It's just a matter of whether or not we're going to draw into it. We're going to... Do we Heavy Stomp here? I think we might just deal 190 damage with Heavy Stomp. We'll flip the coin. The coin flip doesn't really matter too much to us, because if our opponent wants to win, they need to go through this Oinkologne this turn. So they need to deal 310 damage. There's one Pokemon on their bench that can do that, the Tyranitar. Can theoretically get to 310. If all 4 of the single strike energies go onto that Tyranitar, they can get to 310, I believe. But it's going to be tough. If they've managed to draw into some good cards off of their Judge, then maybe it will be possible. 2 heads on the Capturing Aroma means that 2 evolved Pokemon will be going into the hand. I'm sure that they would have much preferred a basic, maybe finding a Lumineon or something like that, but not going to happen this time. And we'll see here what our opponent is able to do. They're going to Archeops. Do they have... Well, I mean, they don't have all 4 in there straight up. We know we've seen some discarded already, so definitely possible. 1, 2, so we get a V-Guard energy going onto the Tyranitar, so no single strike energy. Like I said, I think they need them all to take the knockout. There's 250 plus 60, so no, they need 3, so they can get the knockout if they have them. Doesn't look like they have them though. Okay, so this is good. This is good for us. They get a Tempest Dive, 150 damage. Okay, so now we have the opportunity to heal some of this damage off. We can, or top decking that boss is actually pretty good as well. Let's Sharon's Care. We're going to pick the Oinkologne up. We're going to promote the Lechonk. We can then evolve. We can attach the V-Guard energy. We can attach the full face guard to the Oinkologne EX. We can rebench our Lechonk. And then I think we can Nest Stash this hand away. I don't need any of these cards right now. I'd rather just shuffle them away and take a look at a fresh hand of 5. This combo of these two beautiful little rats are actually quite fantastic. I like them a lot. Let's see what we can do. We're going to Maddening Scent. Does that take a knockout? It does. Okay. And now we're in a really interesting position. Because with Klara and Radiant Charizard in our hand, we can theoretically take a knockout with Radiant Charizard on this Tyranitar V next turn. That could potentially happen. It's not likely to happen, but it could happen. And that's the key. Now, our opponent's in the exact same position that they were last turn. They need to deal enough damage to one-shot this Oinkologne. And if they can't do it, then they risk us healing again, which would be really, really bad for them. So we don't want them to be able to one-shot us. We don't want them to get to 310 damage. Looks like they're going to go for an Archeops attack here, which is quite interesting. Another single strike energy onto the Tyranitar. So 1 away, is that 1 card away from being able to take a knockout on us cleanly with that second attack? That's pretty brutal, frankly. I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to withstand that. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. Here comes Speedwing. Alright, so they've dealt 80 damage. Can we find a way to win this turn? I don't know that we can. I don't know that Klara into Radiant Charizard is going to win us the game, but it certainly could give us an opportunity to try and do something here. We've got another Oinkologne which we could get into. We could go into a Radiant Charizard and attack this turn. I think we're just going to Escape Rope. We're going to see whether or not we can get into an attack onto something this turn. We're going to go for the Charizard here and attack into that Radiant Tsarina. It's definitely not ideal, but it's something, right? That's the key. It's something. We can take a knockout. We don't really need any of the cards in our hand, but you know what? We're just going to take an attack here. 500 damage onto the Tsarina, taking a knockout. And now, next turn, we need to find boss's orders, and we'll win the game. Meanwhile, our opponent needs to find boss as well, and they'll win the game because of the damage on the Oinkologne that's already in play. So there's the Urn of Vitality. Do they have the boss as well? Oh, this is very uncomfortable. I think they might be able to win this one. Single Strike Crush does 240 instead of 250. Oh, they need 4. They're gonna research. Okay, alright. Maybe we have a chance. Maybe we have a chance. It's a heads on a capturing aroma. That's an evolved Pokemon. Nothing useful for them here. They've got 2 prizes left to take and they've already played research, so they cannot win the game simply by bossing. So this is good for us. The thing that's really going to suck, and I'll say this much, the thing that's going to suck is that our Radiant Charizard, if it doesn't get knocked out, is going to be stuck in the active. Maybe we'll regret attacking with that Charizard right now. Here comes a Nest Ball. No targets. This one's coming right down to the wire. I really don't like it. We've got Arven in hand. We've got Lost Vacuum. What can we do? What can we do? How do we get this Radiant Charizard out of the active if they don't knock it out? I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. They're going to be able to Cragalanche. They're going to do some damage. Primal Turbo here. Maybe they decide to just go for the single strike crush and hope for the best. I'm uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen. I am uncomfortable with how close this is. I don't know what's going to happen. There's a Cragalanche, so no knockout. A boss and a DTE. That DTE would have been really useful. The Colress, sorry, and the DTE would have been very useful. Okay, I think now we need to start considering ways to thin out our hand. Oh, we're going to just Nest Stash. If we've got the game, it's in these cards. It's in these cards off of the Bibarel, right? Because we've got to draw into them. We've got to draw into them if we've got them. There's the DTE and the boss's orders. So, now, do we have enough damage to... Can we actually deal enough damage? I'm just looking here. I don't actually think we're dealing enough. The Maddening Scent doesn't deal enough damage. Oh my god, after all this time I was sitting here going, can we win? Well, I mean, we potentially can. We don't have enough damage in play. I think, what? Do we just Cheryl? We just pass? I don't know. Nothing. Oh, and we know... Oh, I should have played down the path because I know that they have the fish for boss. Oh, they had it in hand anyway. Oh, boy. Well, I mean, incredible stuff. We could have theoretically gotten there, but unfortunately, the Heavy Stomp just was one too many cards away from us. We needed to use the Escape Rope earlier on, but hey, that's fine. I think that this deck has performed admirably here. And realistically, we could have so easily won that game. Thanks everyone for coming along and watching, by the way. If you like it, it's in the description, click the like, etc. I'll see you all next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.